Welcome back to episode 143 of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, I-Man.
What's going on, man?
All right, and on the sticks, we got TJ.
Hey.
And finally, we've been wanting to talk to the people behind Personal.AI. We got Suman, the CEO and co-founder of Personal.AI. Thank you for joining us.
Good to meet you, both of you.
All right, so we've been talking about Personal.AI, pretty much on a daily basis, just because as soon as we discovered it, we're like, we could think of so many applications, so many use cases. We got our own community. Yes. We're building our own product.
Yes.
And we're having to answer our community, all types of questions. And we feel like, hey, if we generated this personal AI, maybe the community can interact with the personal AI instead of us.
Yeah.
And have a little bit of backup here.
Yeah, you could dream up like so many different use cases for a technology like this. So yeah, we definitely want to get as deep as we can go, and somewhere towards the tail end of this conversation, see if we could shift it towards like the metaverse direction, because that is definitely like our focus. See if we could figure out if we think the metaverse will be the ultimate playground for AI one day.
Yeah.
To really test out like the depths of what these newly generated, potentially lifelike forms can do.
Yeah.
In their own 3D space. So yeah, I guess you want to get things started. I guess how did Personal AI even come about? Like, when did you guys start? What is the genesis to Personal AI?
Genesis. Oh God. Okay, we are starting deep then. So the company started in 2020. Although the genesis of Personal AI began somewhere in like 2018 or 2019. Mm-hmm. Previously, I ran a company called IRA. It was essentially a technology for people who are blind and low vision, with the intention of, filling the gap of missing visual information for, visually challenged people, including blind. And during those times, my previous investor, as well as a mentor and partner who became a good friend of mine, his name is Larry Bach. He passed away due to pancreatic cancer. And, when I was running my previous company, I always had this thought of like, what would Larry do? Because not just like emotional connection with Larry, but also the strategic connection. It's like, hey, what do you think about these terms? Hey, what do you think about this negotiation? Hey, how do I strategize, this startup in this such particular situation? And I missed it. I missed that essential component, because that kind of bootstrapped me as an entrepreneur. And the core thesis of like, what would Larry do, is a bigger problem, which is like, we usually create and communicate and consume a lot of information every day, but we forget, majority of it. That's the first problem. The second problem is generally we do not have access to the people that we would otherwise would want or would benefit from, because, whether the people, that do not exist in the world or is too far out, we cannot, basically afford to be able to communicate those people. Some people do not have time at all, right? Because you can only have like 150 true connections according to Dunbar. So all in all, this core idea, the core thesis of how can we create a model of an individual to be able to replicate their thoughts and their mind, to have these conversations beyond the physical limitation that exists of a human to human connection and communication. So it's very like human driven. So if the previous company was more about augmenting like visual challenges, missing visual information, this company is more about augmenting like the missing memories or missing cognition and missing time that, goes beyond our, human capabilities to be able to fulfill. So that's kind of like typically my like passion, like how to use technology to kind of create this, augment this challenges that are super close to an individual human being. So it's kind of how we, thesis wise, the company started about.
Interesting. So when it comes to personal AI, can you give us a few examples of use cases for something like this? Like, what is the most optimal way to leverage personal AI? I created an account, by the way. And so what I've been doing is I've been sort of feeding it information about, my thoughts that I have. Like, is that the proper way to use personal AI, or can you give me some recommendations to optimize the experience?
Yeah, no, it's a totally valid question. And for the fact that it is so broad, is a good problem to have, but at the same time, it presents challenges. And hang on, what is the first use case to go after? What is the go-to-market looks like? Who are the people that can benefit from it? how do we optimize the experience for what kind of people? So in a way, what's been happening with this company over the last 3 years was just that. There's tons of technology to build. First of all, there's like a parallel implementation of GPT architecture that we've been doing while OpenAI was doing GPT architecture implementation for Internet of Data. We've been doing it for individuals' data, and the initial core thesis was augmenting sort of memories. In other words, like, can you feed in all the information, all your thoughts, to be able to recall contextually relevant piece of information without you proactively searching for it or looking for it or asking for it, right? So that use cases has evolved into being able to generate content and ideas and writing blogs and recalling information and looking up information pretty rapidly and pretty fast. So that helped us think through productivity and helping cognition, because people forget and people are able to recall. However, one of the core theses of personal AI is also this idea of access. Like, how do we leverage personal AI of individual person so that way they can benefit other people around them, not just self. Like, it can benefit you for sure, but how can it benefit other people? And there is a lot more motivation behind that, not just me personally, but also to the thesis and also to the community, to the people who are building their personal AIs, because there is this desire, like, hey, this is my mind, and I want my mind to help me, but I also want my mind to be helping others. So our mission is, how can we bring this power of AI and put in the hands of like every individual person, but every individual person through authentic self and a true unique model. So the use cases are broad, but we are doubling down on the use cases of connection and the communication. So let's just say, let's take a technical route, because I think everybody lately is very familiar with the power of AI with ChatGPT.
Sure.
And what you can do with it. With personal AI, the way to think about it is, it's ChatGPT, but it's personal thoughts. So every model is unique. If you think about ChatGPT model is, GPT-3 model basically is around 170 billion parameters. Our personal AI models are 120 million parameters. So in a way, these models can actually run on your iPhone, or even, soon enough, if the chips are smart enough, on your wearable devices as well. And they scale horizontally. So everybody gets like a different model. So now, think about the use cases. All the use cases that you can apply on ChatGPT is just like generating blogs, generating marketing content, generating, asking questions, asking knowledge, but personal. This is your data. This is your knowledge from your content. And the use case that we are going after multiple different experimentations over the past 1 year is this conversations, like communication, which is okay. TJ has an AI. I would start communicating, with TJ, because I would need to talk, but TJ doesn't have time. Or there is 80% of the things that normally people ask TJ anyway. So in this mode of communication, it's not about like talking to the AI or asking or commanding a bot, but in fact, I'm talking to TJ, and TJ's AI is augmenting that person to generate appropriate responses much faster. So in a personal AI co-pilot mode, your AI is indeed suggesting you or writing the responses for you that is true and authentic to you, that is your knowledge, your style, and your voice, right? So the trust has to be established to that person. So that's kind of how we think about it. It's not, humans talking to the AI bots. It's actually human-to-human conversations with AIs in the loop.
Interesting.
Is there like a quantifiable, I guess, metric internally, like that's I guess considered on each individual's personal AI generation process? Like, how do we know once we get to that state of, I guess, reliability and trust, that we know, like someone like TJ, maybe he's only provided like a bare minimum amount of information about himself, so the response you're gonna get out of that personal AI is not truly authentic or like a good representation of what he is as an individual? Is there like, I don't know, like some sort of like status bar?
Quality metric.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly how you should be thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, we call that metric a trust score. Our technical term for that score is attribution score. What the hell is an attribution score? Well, think about it. So you, when you search things in Google, you would get information and you would go to the website and you know who are the people who authored that piece of information. So that way you have authenticity associated with the piece of information. But however, the good news, bad news about large language models is large language models covers this like gigantic breadth of information of the entire internet. But because it is basically pulling all the information from anywhere, it is all anonymized, right? So that means whatever AI is creating or generating, it doesn't have an attribution back to the true source, the true person or group of people, right? But in our case, it's exactly the opposite because we are attribution first. So every AI response that is generated will have an attribution score that will tell you how likely is this response to be coming from that particular person. And that's the transparency. That is the exchange between you and your AI and between your AI and other people that, you know what, it sounds 57% like Suman. And if that is my choice, yes, 57% like me is acceptable, then yeah, go for it. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Does that mean that, like, if I were to ask TJ's AI or Iman's AI, is there a public version of their personal AI that I can query versus if I'm using my personal AI, like Will's personal AI, I am querying my personal side of this AI application? Are there differences versus between the public and my personal one?
Yeah, very good question. And now that we know this is going to be coming up in March, technically with your personal AI, you can identify multiple different personas. Like let's think about like simple human form. Like we have one life, but we have many different segregations of our life. Like there is work, there is personal, there is podcast, there is probably our thought leadership that exists out there. So we created this concept of AI profiles. So AI profile is nothing but you can basically confine. It's like a scope. It's almost like a scope of your life, right? Let's say the scope of your life is your podcast because generally you talk and you exchange ideas in the podcast in a much more free manner, right? That doesn't probably has like super secret information about your family and your business and stuff like that. So you can choose that AI profile to be your podcast profile, and you can technically train it by uploading on your podcast, uploading your general thoughts, uploading your public persona. And when you choose to share, you can choose to publish TJ Personal AI. When people go to that TJ Personal AI, you can technically join, as if like you're joining a group and talk to TJ, but that profile will support just a public persona, not necessarily private information. Now, if you think about like a project, right, like a community of people who are coming together and then working on a project, they probably are sharing a little bit more deeper information. It's like more, 10 to 12 people closed. So then they can choose it to create a profile for that particular project and create a group that is not, public. It's more shared among a group of people. So it's no different than like, sharing documents, if you will. If you just expand the concept of, how we share our documents, private documents, shared documents and public documents that we publish onto the web, now apply that same thing to the AIs. Like, a set of AIs that it's just mine, like it's private. Set of like AI profile that is for family or friends or colleagues or groups or public.
Wow, that's interesting. I like that analogy because it's like you're sharing documents and pictures and people, things with people. But in this case, you're sharing like a knowledge base with somebody, and that knowledge base is so like vast and deep that the only way they can extract information from this knowledge base is you just ask it questions. And I feel like that's something that we can leverage like from a business level too, in the sense where I guess one question I have is if I were to access TJ's public personal AI, How would I do that? Would I have to go to his website? Do I need to join his Discord and interact with a specific channel? Like, how would I do that?
Yeah, so every person on the planet, when they sign up to Personal AI, they will get their own Personal AI. So it's a kind of a little bit different thinking. It's not a platform where everybody is sharing like one app. Everybody gets their own stack. We refer to as a stack is nothing but all the piece of information that you own and associates with you that is authentic to you. So you come to, let's say, TJ publishes tj.personal.ai. You go to tj.personal.ai, very similar to going to a Twitter profile. You'll say, hey, I'm training my AI on these concepts. And here is my public profile, if you will. Please, join me as a member. You click message. And when you click message, it's essentially no different than joining a WhatsApp group or joining a Telegram application or joining a Slack group. Right? It's pretty similar. It's a communication platform. So you would come in, you would essentially direct message TJ. But depending on who you are, depending on what TJ exposes, he could or she could like essentially set into a co-pilot mode where you are approving all the messages that AI generates, or autopilot mode where, let them ask me questions as much as they want. I trust them and then send the responses back. So think the experience is no different than any other messaging platform, such as Telegram, or such as Discord, or such as Slack, but it's a personal AI application. We do have integrations that people do where they can use the API and then drop their personal AIs in their respective existing messaging channels, such as Slack and such as Discord. But the goal is to create a highly branded experience of every brand. And that brand could be a person, that brand could be a brand itself, but the focus is more personal than like a corporate bot, if you will.
Yeah, that makes sense. We spend a lot of time on Discord, and our whole team is there, and so we're actively interacting with them, and we're answering questions all the time. So I feel like it would be useful to have that Discord integration of our, I guess, public version of knowledge base on our project.
Yeah, and I can see a lot of potential maybe future, because we talk about, decentralized autonomous organizations a lot, DAOs, as a fundamental component to, I guess, the Web3 ethos, and how difficult it is, I guess, for communities to reach consensus, especially like on really challenging topics of debate.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking if have you guys considered or thought of ways how communities can, I guess, curate and contribute as much information about, let's say, a project or an ecosystem? Obviously, there has to be like individual governance procedures in order to determine like what should be part of that knowledge base and what should not.
True.
But ultimately, is the end goal of like a personal AI to be like the ultimate executive of a DAO? Yeah. I envision a future where that would be super useful, right? Like
a community AI.
That's a beautiful thing, right? I mean, we started our Web3 journey in 2020. In March of 2020, after we partnered with Oasis Labs.
Yeah.
I still remember the conversations like, in summer of 2020 when we were talking to investors, like AI in Web3, in personal AIs. You guys are like, what are you talking crazy? What the hell is going on here? Sorry. But now it's like more obvious for people.
Yeah.
I said, AI is data. And of course, data, Web3 is all about data ownership. So it makes perfect sense. It's like, yeah, right. That's essentially the core thesis of this company, which is the attribution of the data and the ownership of the data. So now let's talk about community AIs. Let's back it off to Discord as well. Let's just say, we have Discord communities. Think about personal AI application as, a Discord with AIs baked in. Like everybody who has communities who is communicating on personal AI, they will have their own AIs, and nothing is forgotten. Everybody, whoever says whatever, will belong to them. It doesn't belong to the company. It belongs to the individual. It's them. It's the DAO concept, right? So now think of a channel like a Discord where you have a group of people. We actually branded it lounges. Lounges is people where You come in, you basically brainstorm, you basically talk about things, and you exchange ideas like more deeply. That's kind of the concept behind an AI lounge. And in this AI lounge, people are having these conversations, and everybody's kind of information could be going into like one single AI. But more beautiful thing is everybody's AI is also picking up their own thoughts and contributions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do indeed like ask a question to this community AI or in a lounge, you can think about the response that is constructed, and you can have attributions back to what pieces of data or who are the contributors for this particular response to be generated, right? If you ask like, hey, give me a brief summary about like AI in Web3. Let's say all four of us, were contributing to that concept. When the AI generates a response, it will have that attribution to those four. You know what I mean? And so that's your reward process. It's like, okay, if that is being used, then the reward goes back to the people who communicated it. So in a way, it gets like very interesting on how we can like mix the Web3 concepts of ownership and rewarding with like AI utility baked into the system.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that's one of the things, because whenever we noticed AI was exploding in, I guess, the public zeitgeist, and one of the first questions we started asking each other is like, when is this going to meet blockchain, right? And then they were like, once we started to learn more about how AI even works, it's like, oh man, there's a lot of training involved,
right,
in order for like reliable AI output, right? So what better way to train AI than to galvanize, communities through, the use of cryptocurrencies potentially, right? Like that is the incentive mechanism to contribute, right? And then if you do as a community create a good product or like, a good AI that does get a lot of utilization, it seems like a good little closed loop ecosystem there, right? Like that is what.
And we haven't even touched on the monetization part, right? Like you have monetization. Now think the NFTs are not just behind Discord servers. There's actually NFTs behind people's data and the utility associated with the AIs, right? You are part of this group if you own this NFT, but by being part of the group, it's not just like community, but there is a collective intelligence of that community that you are building and contributing, which I think is beautiful.
I love it. I love it because I guess the analogy that I would describe something like this is when you have a community and they're contributing, like our community contributes to our knowledge base, right? They're creating their own YouTube videos, they're creating Reddits, they're creating all kinds of stuff. And a lot of that information, even though it's accessible, it's not readily available to new community members. And so if new community members could ask like, hey, what is this project about? And who are the founders? And, how do I use this? And if all this were queries into the AI would just spit everything out. It's like just pulling, what's needed in real time.
Interesting.
And so the analogy I would use is like, it's sort of like finding gold and then processing that gold so that it can be leveraged for like computer chips or jewelry or something useful, right? Because if you find gold, I mean, it's practically useless. You can't really do much other than just like sell it. But if you could process it, you might be able to leverage it.
Yeah, one thing like I would probably push us to think further is this AI doesn't have to be a thing that basically picks up the best answer. Meaning these personal AIs are so sophisticated, but that it can be down to the individual person. So let's forget like AI for a second. Let's just imagine a community. You have a channel and people are talking and contributing to the conversations, and somebody new joins to that community and then asked like, how do I do so and so things? And one, there are probably a few other community members looking at that message, and then somebody picks it up and then responds to that particular message. Now, in the case of AIs, think about this as everybody has their own personal AI. So when a new person comes in and then posts a message, now instead of human picking up, that message is broadcasted to all these individual people's AI. And the best response will be picked up because of, basically the attribution score. If it is 80%, and then you would basically reply to that. So think about it as more like a virtual panel, like when you are sitting together in a moderated panel. Somebody asks a question and then somebody picks up, hey, I will go first, and then the other person, let me build on top of it, right? So in a way, these AIs representing individual people is coming in and contributing to the conversation as needed basis, which is associated with that person. So it's like still like a human conversation, except that every human is augmented with their own personal AI.
Wow. Yeah, it's the applications of this is so vast. I feel like one of the bigger questions I had for you, Suman, is do you guys plan on building sort of an SDK so that, because I feel like the developer community can come up with different use cases for something like personal AI that you guys might not. And I wanted to give you an example of how we might use it as a third-party developer. So imagine, I mean, obviously you experienced the whole PFP craze that happened in 2021 and everything. And so we created our own PFP project, except because we're in the metaverse, we did a PFP project that is deployable in the metaverse. So we have our own unique battle bots that are completely unique, that are deployable in this virtual world called Decentraland, and people could battle each other and earn tokens. And so what if we leverage the SDK, of personal AI, and we embedded personal AI into each of these robots, unique robots, where I can interact with it and I can get a unique, response from our robots, sort of like merging AI and virtual beings.
I guess that would be one of the activities as one of the Rovi owners, which is the robot we're talking about, is to upload as much, I guess, consciousness juice as you can. It doesn't necessarily have to be a representative of yourself, right? Can't you just mix and match information from, I don't know, different people you like. Elon
and Katy Perry. All of a sudden,
I want to create a merge of those two different human beings and see what that ends up looking like. Right? Could you do something like that?
Yeah, totally. One of the guys at Personal AI, he recently built Sith from Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And there were questions about he actually tweeted it out. I will send you guys a link. But no, there's nothing stopping it. Like the intention of Personal AI is to first impersonate a personality, right? If the personality is mix and match of some people, or you are creating it, or it's of a person, that's fine. There is nothing stopping. The goal is that everybody, the mission is like everybody will have their own personal AI. So it's kind of a larger vision. It doesn't mean that I will have a separate Twitter persona that is a collective of many different personas, right? Which kind of happens today, because if I go and talk on Twitter, probably I'm there's a scientific term for this, like mimetic desires, right? Like you start, when you like somebody, you start talking like that person, right? You're starting to adapt to those people already. So you can think about like training a personal AI, with your Twitter personality that is probably a combination of a few people, for that particular purpose. So there's nothing stopping doing that. But just the thought process of, it's not just like, throwing in a bunch of data from the whole, like all the customer data combined to simply answer questions. It's much beyond that. It's about to represent a character, represent a personality, represent their knowledge, represent them. So I think it's just the positioning of it. But technically, there's nothing stopping me creating your own characters, if you will.
So we've talked about.
You asked about SDK.
Yeah. Please chime in on the SDK.
Yeah. So there is already existing API available, which is personal.ai/memory-API. I put in the chat. That's already available for people to ingest the data as well as to query the AIs. And all the training part and modeling part is technically automated behind the scenes. So I mean, it's not like SDK, but it's basically API is available for people to
that's awesome.
Play with and then shape up however they want. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. I was really curious because I feel like one of the things in our experience. So just to give you a little bit of background about us, we developed this project called Metazone.ai, Metazone.io, not AI, Metazone.io, and it's a platform where creators can submit digital content that is deployable in the metaverse. And one of the things that we quickly learned is that the community is much more creative than any like small group of people. And they've submitted things like dexes as NFTs. So you could literally deploy this dex as an NFT into your piece of land, and you can swap tokens, and the landowner and the person that owns that machine is getting paid, a portion of the fees, right? It's creating an economy in the metaverse. And so we were able to see such creativity that we feel like any project like Personal AI that enabled third-party developers to come in and kind of use your technology for different purposes has like an explosion of even more creativity. And so that's how we would use it. I think if we enhanced our PFP project, you could interact with your unique robot and it would respond to you in a unique way. I feel like that's something that's gonna create a mania.
So this kind of leads to another question though too. Like, say we do create this open ecosystem to utilize this tech. So what is the, I guess, computational requirements to support all this? Like, actually prompt, I guess, an AI response. Like, there's a cost to this, right? It's not free.
Yeah.
So like, if we were to create our own project, like, how do we know how much these inquiries?
Yeah. I will comment on the metaverse, and then I will comment on the cost. So, I mean, metaverse is one, like, Web3, we started with like data ownership, and then of course it has a lot of economic incentives associated with the data. Metaverse is a perfect example for Web3. Metaverse is also a good example for AI. Why? Metaverse is nothing but, virtual experiences. There is virtual real estate. There is, virtual characters, virtual robots, and virtual immersion that can happen. Now, what it doesn't have is virtual human beings, virtual characters that can be trained with their own personality. So what other players would be in existence than having your own kind of avatar, or a avatar that you dreamt of, that you created, being creative, that plugs into your own personal AI brain, right? It's not just like the visual avatar, it's also the mind that kind of represents that particular character or particular human, right? So I think it's beautiful. I know at least 4 metaverse projects who are trying personal AIs to basically connect personal AI to the avatar that they are building inside a metaverse experience. So totally, I think that should be the way to think about. The initial positioning from our perspective is we want to first start with the baseline of everybody gets access to the AI. It's almost like democratizing the AI, which is the flip of kind of like the current industry norms, and so cheaply that AI becomes like part of our everyday lives, and it's our asset that we own that will stay with us forever, into the future. Cost wise, there is obviously cost, but the good news is it is cheaper than hosting or computing large language models. For example, a 170 billion large language models takes like north of 10,000 GPU cluster or more, right? And I bet right now there will be a competition that will be going on who gets the most GPUs for running the most powerful model or training the most powerful model and inferencing, from that model. So think about those as like, mainframe computers, right? So that is the AI of large language models, which is like a mainframe computer. Now, personal AI comes from this idea that you can carry a personal computer at your home or a personal phone in your pocket. So these models are like 120 million parameters, meaning they can literally run on your computer or on your edge devices. Right now, we are still running them on the cloud, but they are designed to be portable on these small devices so that we're thus reducing the cost, but the use cases are not broad to the internet knowledge. The use cases are narrowed down to an individual person's knowledge or an individual character's knowledge and that experience, if that makes sense. So that's how we are able to reduce the cost. So there is a free version. Now that it will be published in March, there is a free version where people would come in. There is no limit on what you can put in the data, meaning your memories are yours. That will be provided at no cost for anybody, and they will own the data, meaning the company will not own the data. The data will not be sold. So all those things will be available at no cost. What
Awesome.
costs us more money that we cannot just give away is the AI portion of the inference. In other words, we still have to crunch the model and we still have to make inference. So the approach we take is everybody gets this model, and it is a tiny model that we will afford to give away. And then as you use more or incorporate more of your AI with much more demand to your AI, because people are communicating with your AI, then there will be a cost associated with it. But our goal from a Web3 perspective is for people to be able to monetize their own AIs that will kind of offset the costs that are involved, for computation of these things itself. So we are taking both Web2 as well as Web3 models of, simply put a subscription. Think about consulting with a person. Probably, costs around $400. Now, you can actually talk to an AI or interact with an AI, that gets you 60-70% of it. That will probably, cost, I don't know, $5 an hour, something like that, right? So that's the economic model and economic incentives, and I think it is very well positioned to fulfill the needs of like 80% consumers out there, not just like top tier, highly funded projects.
So so my background is in engineering, and I want to get a little bit deeper as to the source of the cost, just for me to understand. Is, say for example, can I host my own personal AI on my own server that people can query? Would that be where the cost is associated versus using your own systems, or is it the computational aspect of the that's the reason why it costs something, or like what's the source of the cost?
The source of the cost literally goes down to the hardware.
To the hardware, okay.
Right? Yeah, it literally goes down to the hardware, except that the mechanics of the hardware is a little bit tricky. In other words, think about, when initially Linux operating system came out, it was super hard to install it on Mac OS operating system because it was very closed, right? And it won't be compatible. So we are in a world where the hardware compatibility and the model compatibility and everybody coming up with different kinds of chipsets is a little bit not standardized. So what is standardized, the good news is like, GPT architecture is kind of standard right now. And there are like multiple different versions of this architecture kind of evolving, which is good. So eventually the goal is, instead of these personal AI models running on a specific type of GPU on the cloud, they will be able to run on the GPU chipsets that your Mac or your Apple iPhone or your Google Android will ship with your phones. Even that industry it's not completely mature. Like even if we try to say, oh, you know what, let's build personal AI models for edge, it is too immature for us to be able to provide a meaningful utility off of it. But the good news is it is designed to be so small and so effective to run on those chips when it becomes in the mass market availability. So that will reduce your cost dramatically. So yes, you can potentially host it on your own local machine, and if you are savvy enough, buy a GPU as part of the model. We are trying to figure out how do we give people ability to download the models and do their own things. But those are the developer tools that I guess will mature as the company matures.
Okay, so that means that a project like us, we would potentially be able to host a lot of this functionality within our own servers, so that we can manage the cost. Because it's like when we're trying to apply personal AI to our own project like Rovi, where we have our creatures that are very unique. I'm curious as to how this interaction scales in terms of the cost and the timing. Like, let's say I ask my Rovi a question, or, give me, thoughts about, this metaverse event or whatever it is. Is it going to take a long time just because we're hosting it, or is it going to be a better experience if Personal AI is hosting it? Like, what are the different considerations for all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different than, thinking about hosting your own website on your own server versus
that's what I was thinking.
hosting it on AWS, right? I mean, it's no different, except that the models run on GPUs and websites and, simple things run on CPUs. I mean, that's essentially the shift that is happening between the computation that is needed, for hosting these things. Same thing with the games, right? I mean, the powerful machines that you have with your graphic chipsets, you can have that local experience. Otherwise, you would just host the game on a server side, and then, use your PS4 for the computation that is needed locally. So I think those are all like engineering techniques that will eventually evolve and get standardized, as the hardware and the software markets, I guess, parallelly, optimize over a period of time.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So going back to I guess the personal use case of Personal AI. So is it correct to just submit like basically everything? Let's say if I wanted to use Personal AI as like I'm having a meeting with a different project. Does it make sense to use Personal AI to record information from that meeting, like minutes of the meeting, if you will, so that I can later on recall that information? Is that like the proper way to leverage it?
That is a use case. People do use that for that need as well. One, like think from like how you again segregate it, right? You can create an AI profile that says my meetings, and you basically push all your meetings into that one particular AI profile. So when hey, these are the things that I spoke to these people, you will go into your, that particular scope. So you're not giving away querying the knowledge base when you are trying to, basically ask your like meetings in a specific context. There are two things, with AI. One is how you scope it out. So if you have your AI profile for meetings, or you can have AI profile for family, right? Like all the family information that exists, you'll probably don't want to share.
Okay.
And the second thing is the context, which is normally also called prompt, right? If you think about ChatGPT, if you give the same prompt to ChatGPT, but multiple people, same prompt, likely results the same result. In this case, the prompt is still important because you will need to provide that context to the prompt on what you're trying to ask. It's a very human-to-human conversation. Like, for us to dig deeper and deeper, it's taking so much of dialogue back and forth. So if you are able to provide the right amounts of context in your prompt that is available within your space, then your AI will be able to synthesize that and respond with something more meaningful. So the short answer is EIS meetings as well. But if it is just simply meetings, there are a bunch of applications that will summarize meeting notes.
Sure.
To be able to push information. So there's like nuances on how people would want to use for what use cases. And it's so flexible in a way.
Sure.
It's a curse.
I read an article that you wrote recently, and you were talking about how I believe you uploaded a bunch of your podcasts to Personal AI. Is that a functionality that the rest of us could take advantage? Is it just as simple as uploading a YouTube channel, YouTube links?
Yeah. I mean, even today, you said you have an account, right? I would simply create a profile, say the block runner.
Yep.
Take the YouTube links, boom, paste it. It will process to the stack, and then you can technically not just ask questions, but give any prompt. Like you can try to associate like what are the connections between what Suman said about AI and Web3 versus some other people. So it all depends on how creative you get with the prompts to be able to extract information from your profile of block runner.
Yeah, that's so exciting because we have a wealth of information. I mean, our angle and approach to like these interviews and just talking about different crypto projects. As a matter of fact, we just released a video yesterday, Suman, about Oasis Labs. And while we were doing research about personal AI,
Yeah.
we dove into to Oasis Labs, and we were impressed with what they were offering, and so we had to do a video.
Yeah.
And but my whole point is, you know, if I were able to input all this information to my personal AI for the block renter, for example, I feel like there's a lot of information there that is not recallable unless you can just go and watch the video. Like I need some sort of way to like recall, because we made predictions, and a lot of our predictions have come true, but it's very difficult to like, you know, find proof because there's so many videos.
Yeah. So what would you imagine in that scenario? You're talking to the block runner AI.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, you remember that time where we were talking about, you know, this, and that, and then it'll just be like, yeah, it's right over here.
Yeah.
That's what you imagine it to be.
Yeah, I hope so. At least give me the information like in text form, or point me to, hey, this is a video you need to watch to get that information.
Or like say it over again.
Or say it over again. Yeah.
Are we imagining it
Yeah,
correctly?
one of the attribution. One of the attribution requests that we have from the current customers, we show the raw content, like, you know, the related content right now, but we need to tie it back to the raw source so that way they can actually jump to the video or jump to the document.
Yes.
So that attribution exists. So yeah, so
Wow.
totally, you can totally think.
I love it.
It's very
being able to expose that kind of.
I have a
The
question.
attribution is the most beautiful part, I think.
Yeah.
Because no AI has that association. It was a hard problem, but
Yeah.
it's a good thing that we actually invested in that attribution.
Yeah. Shoot, TJ. Go
Yeah, I have a question. So if I'm like bad at math, right, and I feed my AI all this bad math, is it gonna give bad math back, or is it gonna give accurate info?
Yeah. Nope, it's gonna be bad in, bad out.
Awesome. Great.
It's gonna be as close to what you are, right? As
So it's
long as
very
you-
authentic then.
Yeah, that's,
I better
you want
learn
it to
some
be as
math.
authentic as possible. But we did.
Yeah. So speaking of authenticity and bias, right? There is a whole separate conversation that we can have on this topic.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like, you know, when you take like generative images or, you know, generative like large language models, it is as good as, you know, the collective data and where the weights are for the data to basically anchor the bias to certain weights, right? So the interesting challenge over there is, you know, people like release models saying that this is equal weights of the biases, but I guarantee it is a like impossible task to achieve like a no bias collective AI.
Sure.
Because what is ethical in this country is not ethical in a second country and in a different country. So it's very hard to debate what is even ethical and what is not ethical, what is even biased and what is unbiased.
Yeah.
The only thing that currently stands as of today from like my human experience is the individual. Like what you think is different from what other person thinks. And yes, you can have like-minded people come together to form as a group and community where you think, okay, this is the most ethical thing, but for that group to do, right? So that's the whole like concept behind personal AI, is because if it is indeed TJ's AI, if he has a bias on something, of course that AI will have bias on that thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was.
like
I wanted to
opinion.
get to. I just wanted to get to math because math is
Easy.
certain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like somebody else, like Suman may not think that's bias, right? Somebody else will categorize that as bias, but TJ doesn't think it's a bias. So it's all like subjective things. So it's not AI to blame. It is humans who is trying to create and define what exactly bias means. Can we all agree on what a bias is in this entire planet? No, heck no.
So with all of that considered, then can we ever get to a stage where like we could almost reliably trust AI to the point where, like I said, we
It's
could
making
pass
the
over,
good decisions.
or we could unburden humanity on like the decision making. Maybe that can assist, like we talked about earlier, in a lot of governance processes, right?
Yeah.
Like, humanity is obviously very corruptible. It's been proven, and we have natural biases for whatever reasons. Is so if AI is never, there's no way to achieve, I guess, like a something above.
independent
Yeah.
analysis, independent, objective, empirical
I mean,
decision making.
the independent objective is as good as the collective data that went into
Yeah.
that independent objective.
That's tough.
Sorry,
man.
it's
Yeah.
a very
So
bad
true.
answer, but
That's
but
tough.
what you're asking is like a godlike human
Almost,
who
yeah.
is always correct. But at the end of the day, look, it's a choice. Like, for example, I'm from India. Like, within India, I have like multiple different cultures, multiple different gods that we pray.
Mhm.
And I came to US, right? And there are multiple different friends, who basically practice different cultures and everything. Now, what kind of principle is right? Like, whatever like issue or topic that you take, like bisexual marriage and things of that nature, right? So I think at the end of the day, each individual human will be presented with a choice, and the choice can be coming from this collective intelligence AI that a gigantic corporation that is put out there, or a United States AI. It's like, this is the one that we trust because all people are citizens of United States trust this AI. Great, that's great. But if you take that AI and give it to a person in China, it's like, hell yeah, it's their choice. Will they trust that?
Right.
So it all depends on like how you are collectively building it, how you are positioning it, and it will start to mimic the politics and the groups and the societies and the cultures that exist with humans.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But so follow me on this, Suman, on this logic path that we're about to take. So everything you said, 100% correct. However, I feel like humans have come up with an empirical way to come to conclusions about, the world and, how we treat it, right? And so couldn't we use the scientific method to come to a decision-making process that is completely independent from like corruption and like, can't we just say that humans objectively are causing global warming, and the right thing to do is to adjust our behavior independently and objectively, adjust our behavior to combat global warming. And that is the truth from like a scientific, empirical, provable way. And that is what the response from AI, when we query is like, what should we do about global warming? Well, humans need to adjust their behavior. And that becomes the truth. Isn't that reasonable?
Yeah, you can totally expect and you can design an AI to do just that.
But it's just a matter of, will people care? Or, will people trust it, right?
The biggest issue that we are talking is, it's not the AI issue.
Yeah.
It is a human issue.
Yes.
Global warming is a good example, right? If you get 100% of human beings on the planet and give them two options, do you are pro global warming or anti global warming? Do you believe it or not? Do you think you will have 99% of the people who will be like, no, this is how we define global warming and this is what we should do? If the answer is yes, then we will try to use 99% of influence for changing the 1% or force the 1% with laws to switch over on the other side. So if it is scientific and if you are talking about probabilistic, anything north of 50% should be adopted by entire humans, and that should be considered the true, true answer. Then sure, we can do that.
Well, we have to decide to do that.
It's still design.
Yeah, I don't think it's a technical dilemma. It is at the end of the day always a human dilemma. Whether it's going to take a whole cultural shift.
It's a dilemma.
Yeah.
That's why our AI is going to be flat earthers.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you this, right? So I mean, right now, internet has penetrated into English-speaking countries to begin with, right? So obviously, on the internet, there is a lot more English language, and there's a lot more, issues that is closer to English-speaking countries. Let's not go into politics. Let's just stay with maybe cultures. Maybe Christianity is more understood by the AI. If I come from like a super small village and probably like nobody knows in India, right? and we have this like a million or 2 million people who like give their lives for this particular god. It's like very local. You wouldn't know, even within India, people wouldn't know this. Um, uh, it's just, so I don't know what the example that I was trying to give. Oh yeah, the societies. So now on the internet, when you combine everything and what is the true idea of the god, it will likely be extracted empirically, scientifically from Christianity. So would you say all that million people who like believe in this particular story for whatever reason needs to be shifted? Do they have right to follow their own beliefs?
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
So empirically, I can prove Christianity is the thing to go after.
Sure.
But is that the right thing to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Well, I think when it comes to questions like, Christianity and different religions, I think that is a debatable topic for sure. However, when it comes to like scientific decision making and like global warming and all these things, I feel like there's an objective truth.
That's why I used math in my
right.
like
Exactly.
It's hard to argue math.
Yeah.
But I think it's
No,
also
that's totally true. That's totally true. I think if it is more scientific in nature, that is not subjective, you can totally, say, hey, this is a scientific AI. You can totally do that.
Okay,
Right.
so, and the reason why I bring this up is because, in my opinion, and I guess we're getting a little bit into politics, is I feel like our political system is lacking a lot of scientific decision-making processes. And a lot of it is because they just don't understand it. Like obviously this isn't really science, but when Mark Zuckerberg went to Congress and one of the older guys, he was like, how do you make money if you don't charge anybody anything?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I sell ads.
Yeah.
And that's a very dumb question. You should know this, right? But had they have access to a tool like a scientific AI, is like, explain to me global warming. How are humans causing global warming? They would sort of learn without like really, having to go to school or anything like that. And so I feel I feel like a scientific tool like this would be, better for society, in my opinion.
You got to build that AI, Will.
I think I have to do it.
Yeah, you just have to build it out. But yeah, if the purpose is education, the purpose is pushing like scientific knowledge and empirical knowledge, absolutely. I mean, I think we can do it, and we should probably do it as well.
So one question,
and that's the goal. Like, go ahead.
So, okay, so we have this scientific AI. Are we able to feed it enough information to make a suggestion, like something crazy like this? It's like, all right, according to what I'm understanding, so I'm speaking as the AI, according to all this information that we have scientifically, empirically, it looks like there's about 2 billion people starving to death on the planet. If I were to query this AI, the scientific AI, it's like, what should we do about this? It's like, well, humans have enough resources to generate food for everybody, right? Without much cost. And, here's a process to do that. You do build vertical farms. You inject, machines to like pump food into this ecosystem, which, machines are not, they're labor that you don't have to leverage humans for. And all of a sudden, this vertical farm is pumping out food for millions of people. Like, it would come up with this design. Do you think that's a reasonable outcome from such AI? Is that possible?
For it to have unique ideas?
Totally possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unique ideas is totally possible. If the data set that supports your unique ideas, like let's just say you have a huge data set about global warming, and you do have different kinds of ideas and strategies around the global warming that is collected from many different people, all with the core idea of education, and with the core idea of like ideation of what could be done. Totally, like, because that's the beauty of it, which is it can transfer like multiple different connections and ideas in this large data set.
Okay.
Spit out like newer ideas and newer processes than one individual person can comprehend all this information and put together a story. That is totally possible and reasonable thing to do.
Dude, I love it.
I think the previous like 10 minutes ago conversation, the only debate is when you're thinking about AI, like everybody should trust like an AI that is godlike. I don't think we can achieve that. That's the only thing that I argue.
True.
But because because at the end of the day, even with COVID and CDC guidelines, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is like the most scientific data that people put out there. But how many people believe that it is true?
Yeah. Right.
Right. It's pathetic. Like, and that's the reason. Like, it's very hard to just say we can get all humans to trust like one AI. So that's my only argument.
Okay, so I have two more questions, and the first question is about what you just said about people believing in the CDC and all that. Is it because people don't understand the scientific process? Isn't that the reason why they don't believe in what the CDC is saying? Or
I mean, why do you think all people will believe in science, first of all?
Well, I feel like it's an empirical way to determine something is true or not, right? I don't know if it's a belief system or like a tool for discovery.
If it is, so I would basically the short answer is yes, because we are all like scientific people. So if there is a science system that you can create, and maybe AIs can help kind of penetrate. This is what AI thinks. But I think the work is beyond technology. When we are thinking like AI, and when we are thinking using AI for good, being able to adapt and create the trust factor with these, organizations and communities. Like at the end of the day, CDC is still an organization. It's a government organization. So whether it is scientific based or not, people will politically like argue what information that they are using for what purposes and what motivations. So I think your intentions are like really good, and that's where the community, probably the collective group of people, and driving through like from a Web3 principles, I think like makes more sense directionally, rather than a group of people that has different motivations creating a scientific AI that everybody should trust.
I see.
So maybe it's the concept of like decentralization, centralization, like who is doing what for what motivations, and what is the truth? Like what is the truth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it feels like we're transitioning from, I have a question. Let me just Google it too. I have a question. Why don't you just ask this AI? Because it will give you the answer, right? And it will give you an objective, empirical truth answer, rather than when you go to Google, you might see like the latest conspiracy theory. Yeah. Who did 9/11? Like you might see, and you might be convinced that it was some crazy conspiracy or whatever. But if you ask AI, it wouldn't give you conspiracy theories because there's no objective empirical evidence to support that. So I think we're going from like picking and choosing our own path to like knowing the truth. Would that be correct? Is that
depends on what data you feed it? That's what we were talking about. We could have a conspiracy
conspiracy
a whole
AI.
Conspiracy AI.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So in that reality, there's even more fragmentation, I guess, of belief and alignment.
But you're using conspiracy.personal.ai though, versus science.personal.ai.
Yeah,
I'm going to get that domain right now.
Right. Okay, final question. We're almost done here, Suman. So you said that on March you're going to be releasing something. Can you describe the difference between 1.0 personal AI to 2.0?
Technologically, it is just super powerful. Use case wise, we are basically are now ready to say, hey, everybody will get a personal AI of their own for free. And it will be integrated into your life on a day-to-day basis if you would choose to, by using personal AI platform to communicate with each other. That each other could be like yourself, like you can communicate yourself by telling everything for your AI to learn. You can communicate with other people, like very similar to chatting with other people. You can communicate within a community or in a lounge setting. but everything that you say will be learned by your AI, which belongs to you, and you own it, and over a period of time will develop to be like you, right? So in those communications or chatting, your AI will start providing you or drafting you suggestions in real time, what you may want to say based on the context that was provided. Like you were asking about, a community person asking a question in a particular channel. Your AI will draft a suggestion for you to, yes, that's what I would say, because it is all learned from my previous knowledge, style, thought that is authentic to you. And then just multiply that with everybody else will also have that. So it's not like multiple humans talking to one AI. It's humans talking to humans, where everybody has their own AI to help and augment their own thinking and their own thought process in a co-pilot, which is drafting mode, or autopilot, which is automatically trusting that person to be able to send that message out.
Wow, amazing! And this is being released in the 1st of March.
Assuming, this is going in March, right? So by the time this gets released,
perfect,
the app should be out there.
Awesome.
Now, are there, Web3 is a component to a lot of this as well. Are there any details you could share as far as like a, social token is mentioned a lot on your website, like an actual, like a token ecosystem that will emerge from your platform at any point in the future?
Yeah, it was, it's already part of the plan. The way we think about it is, since 2020, one of the key principles is privacy and ownership of the data, because the concept is, creating your mind, right? Which is very personal, which is very private, and people has to own it. Like no company should own that thing. So we went about choosing blockchain as a technology to be able to guarantee that ownership. We cannot just say, okay, you own it, right? We got to show that in actions. And we chose blockchain because, I have some blockchain history myself as a technologist. So for us, like the Web3 and the blockchain was perfect because principally we had certain promises that we wanted to build into this platform, into this product. And that's the reason why we chose, to implement it. So it's a very like a different mindset. Like we start with the problem first and what are our principles and what are the technologies to solve, right? And Web3 allows us to do that. And the economics wise also is beautiful because we are talking about this is your mind. You use your mind every day, to make money, to make a living, right? So this mind of yours should help you make money to make the living because, it's working with you and for you. So the concepts are pretty similar. It's data ownership, data privacy, and economics around the data, but all packed into this particular model. You can choose to put your personal AI behind a NFT gated access. You can also choose to put personal AI behind a subscription gated access, very traditional Web2 method. And as you basically build your particular token to your particular personal AI,
wow, that's cool.
Economically viable, you can imagine that to be a social token to be released. It's not the token first, it's actually token is the result, right? And especially given how Web3 industry is shaping up, we always want to start with human and the consumer experiences and the utility first, with the promise of trust and ownership, and then start enabling the economic functions or frameworks that Web3 as well as Web2 allows us to do.
Yeah. So basically, we could spin up our own personal AI and leverage the many different varying, I guess, tokenization models, economic models to, I guess, incentivize the community either to contribute or give additional benefits or perks to people who do decide to leverage the personal AI we curated. And, so it's up to the creator essentially, like how they want to leverage these Web3 components.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
Yeah, and it takes me down another. Just you can just keep going deeper and deeper to this stuff.
Yeah, hopefully
you come back one day, like once everything we get closer to the Web3 stuff, because I think, man,
there's so many angles you could take this. Down at least as a user, as a developer, you could leverage this heavily in like tons of ways.
It's one of the more exciting things I've seen, I guess, because
same.
Like Web3 and I guess cryptocurrencies, even DeFi stuff, we do a really good job of like, I guess, incentivizing contribution, participation into different ecosystems and stuff like this, but there hasn't been too much value output.
Yes.
Like from the Web3 ecosystems,
Yeah.
like by leveraging all that human activity and contribution. I think AI generating all these useful AI products is going to be something that's going to really turn people's heads. Like, holy shit, this whole blockchain thing makes a lot more sense now.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because the best we've come up with is DeFi, and all it is just locked up funds.
Yeah,
That's the output.
Yeah, I mean, there are investors who rejected me because there's a blockchain component involved in this company.
Wow. What a mistake.
Yeah. Well, they just don't know.
They don't know. Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know.
They don't know. They don't get it. All right, Suman, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you come back on and talk a little bit more in depth. Once we get, access to like the next version of Personal AI, which is, if you're watching this, it's already available. Definitely get your Personal AI. I got mine. I'm going to be leveraging it heavily.
Yes.
I think we're going to be using it for our own community, for MetaZone and Rovi.
We're gonna find as many ways we can use as we can.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, this is game changing. I mean, this is very interesting conversation. I really appreciate your time, Suman.
No, I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for all of you.
All right. I appreciate it. And we will catch you in the next podcast.